Another one. Google developers are the best. They are the best. Better than all the rest. So in my continuing series demonstrating exactly, I know you guys have been wondering, why is it that Google developers are so legendary? What is behind the legend? Well,
is it working? Sure, let me try. So if you put the flowers, it's not saying anything. Put the flowers, it's not. Is it working? Sure, let me try. So if you put the flowers, it's not saying anything. So it looks like it's not working anymore.
It looks like it's not working. So this is the Cloud Vision presentation at Google I/O from 2016. And as usual, Google developers live up to their legendary status. Let me back up here to the beginning, and then I'll comment on my thoughts on how wonderful this presentation was and how it demonstrates the reason behind the infinity. All right, let's go.
Not sure it's working or not. It must be working. I hope it's working.
You hope it's working.
Is it working?
I don't think it's working, buddy.
Sure, let me try. So if you put the flowers, it's not saying anything.
What is that, a lime, lemon? That's like one of those things that you can squeeze like lemon juice.
So it looks like it's not working anymore.
Looks like it's not working.
Maybe I can try fixing this stuff, so while doing that, maybe I can pass this test too.
Just like how, by the way, the thumbnail isn't working still. If you notice on this video, every time I do a live stream, it's got the same thumbnail on it because you get a JSON error. It doesn't matter which account I log into, doesn't matter which browser, doesn't matter incognito, no incognito, cannot change the thumbnail for my live streams anymore. And this is using the latest Google Chrome browser, right? Somehow the Google QA team, which I believe is actually you guys, because I don't think they actually have a QA team considering the kind of stuff that goes live. Obviously, I'm being a little bit facetious because to do the things that they're doing, I mean, it's a massive company, their products and the scope of what they're, YouTube and the Google search. Obviously, it would be atrocious if they had no QA team at all. However, clearly they have some severe issues with their QA testing. But yeah, cannot change the thumbnail on my live stream. Every time you try to change it, you get this JSON input error. This has been happening for a period of time. And this is typical of Google, right? They'll have things that are broken and they'll just stay broken. First of all, somehow, they make it to production with these bugs or undocumented features, if you will. And they will stay in production broken, right? For months, even years. So perhaps I can excuse somehow it slipped through the cracks and made it into production, right? Perhaps I can excuse that. No one's perfect. Mistakes happen, right? But after it goes into production, I presume it's noticed that it's not working, right? So you get complaints coming in, right? So why is it then still not fixed? Why do months go by with these problems? Why do years go by with these problems? And why is it that this kind of behavior is being rewarded by the industry by this legendary status? You know, you have Google on your resume. Oh yeah, right? And then you actually have a bunch of developers that's their dream come true. And maybe I can't fault them because, first of all, I used to think like that. I used to have a tremendous respect for Google. I was amazed by the products that they put out and the way that they just kept innovating and just, you know, improving and growing. And like one example, Google Maps. I remember way back in the day, it was Google Maps versus, what was the other map program? It was MapQuest, right? That was back in the days of, we used to actually print out our maps. I kid you not. We were literally printing out our map. So if you're gonna go somewhere, just to give you the full context, you're going on a road trip, right? You need directions for your road trip, obviously, right? So what are you gonna do when they come for you, bad boys, bad boys? Okay, that's not what I meant to say. So what are you gonna do? You back in the day, you didn't really have this broadband internet everywhere, right? I don't even think we really had internet on our phones back then. Internet. I just said internet. Internet. I love the way we butcher the English language. So how are you going to look at your maps? Like now we take it for granted. You just open up your phone, you know, okay, Google. By the way, that's something else that's not working. So apparently a bunch of Google Android phones, the okay Google feature isn't working. Now I've been a Google and sort of you know, Google platform, Windows platform person for a long time, and a little bit of anti-Apple. But right now, hey Siri, can you tell me why it is that you are more reliable than the OK Google feature? That's interesting. So just because I'm live streaming, so Siri heard what I said and recognized what I said, but for some reason decided not to speak. I've never seen it do that before. That's just like some karma. What she did is she printed out her statement to me, almost as if she was aware that I was live streaming and she didn't want to interrupt my live stream. See, turn a negative into positive, right? She didn't want to, you know, mess up my audio, so she just writes on the screen. I've never seen her do that. I mean, she beeps, so it's not like it's connected to Bluetooth. So I don't know what that was all about. But anyway, generally speaking, usually I can do things like, hey Siri, how do you say hello in German? Hello, she says. Hello. I actually use Siri a lot. I can schedule appointments. I can say, hey, remind me tomorrow to call someone and things like that. And I love the multitasking. Like I'll be in the middle of something working on my computer and I won't even look at it. I will just randomly call out, you know, hey Siri. I said it quietly. I wanted to see if she's gonna pick up on that. But anyway, I'll just say, hey Siri, and I'll say, can you remind me tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. And then she'll be like, okay. And then she puts on a calendar. It's like really, really nice. Now, okay Google or Google Assistant is definitely very capable of such things. But apparently there's some kind of bug. Oh, a bug in a Google product. Surprise, surprise. So okay Google used to work really good, but lately it's been problematic. Usually when I say it, it just kind of, it doesn't respond at all. You say it like 3 times, doesn't respond at all. This is a Galaxy S8 phone, by the way. Or it'll like vibrate and sort of act like, you know, it's gonna do something, but then it doesn't really do anything. It doesn't really, like the microphone, sometimes the microphone will come up, but then it doesn't get into the mode where it's actually listening, because when it's listening it'll start moving and do the animations. So it'll just be like the microphone's on, but it'll forget to actually activate. So anyway, so you know, it could be a problem with my phone or something like that. So I went and did some research, came to find out it's a big issue, that there's tons of people that are complaining that the OK Google feature just breaks. So I was actually following a tutorial earlier trying to tell me how to fix it. Unfortunately, the instructions might have been a little bit old because the menu item that they told me to go into wasn't on my phone. So anyway, so yeah, Google. Anyway, so these guys were doing a presentation trying to show you this Vision, what is it called? The Vision, Cloud Vision speech API, right? Trying to show it off. And as you can see, basically the product wasn't working as it's supposed to. Just bear with me 1 second. Okay, so let's let it play out and you guys can see.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you want me to jump into my slides?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, hi. So I'd also like to talk about the Cloud Speech API, which is actually a rather new.
Hope it's working. Not sure it's working or not. Must be working. I hope it's working. Is it working? Not sure. Let me try. So if you put the flowers, it's not saying anything. So it looks like it's not working anymore. Maybe I can try fixing this stuff. So while doing that, maybe I can pass this stage to him.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you want me to jump into my slides?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, hi. So I'd also like to talk about the Cloud Speech API, which is actually a rather new API. It was released about a month and a half ago. And it joins a number of speech APIs that Google has had for quite some time, quite a number of years. You're probably familiar with the Android Speech API, which allows you to do speech to text and text to speech on Android devices, phones, tablets, autos, TV, etc. So that's in Java. That's a Java-based API.
All right, so here's the deal. Mistakes happen, right? I understand. And first of all, I do public speaking, right? So I'm definitely aware of the scenario of you're doing a presentation and something is not working as expected. But here's the thing. These guys are working for Google. Google's supposed to be the best of the best, right? They have this sort of legendary status. And that being the case, I expect them to be delivering more than the sort of typical or average developer would, right? If you're going to be, or you're going to have this legendary status, then you're going to have to be legendary, right? You're going to have to be delivering more than average, more than typical. Now, I wouldn't expect a typical developer to necessarily be that good at presentations. A lot of times developers are, let's just say they speak to computers better than they do to people, right? That's a typical thing you would find with developers. Really good with code, really good with computers, with people not so much. However, as you get to higher and higher levels in terms of, you approaching the elite status, your top developer, you're gonna need to bring more to the table, right? And before we get into that, we're gonna talk a little bit about the Navy SEALs, to give you an example. But before we get into that, let me talk about how this should have been done, right? All right, so a standard practice whenever you're doing presentations, there's always a possibility that things may go wrong. And this is something that ironically a developer or programmer should be very much familiar with, because when you're writing a program or an application, you have to always consider the fact that things may not go as planned. You have things like exceptions in your code. You have events that you may not have predicted in terms of you need to sit there and sort of extrapolate, theorize, what a user might actually do with your application. I mean, who knows what they might do, what kind of hardware, software, setup they may have, what kind of bizarre, like you have an email application, right? Normally, you would expect someone to go in their mailbox, click on an item, read the item, click on another item, read it, in terms of your messages, right? That's a normal thing, right? And the pace at which that would normally be done would be fairly slow, because it takes you time to recognize, read the titles of your emails and find one that, hey, I want to read this one, and then to click on it, and then it takes you time to actually read and digest what's being said and go to the next one. So normally that would be done at a very slow pace. Even if the messages were super short, it wouldn't be that quick of a process. I mean, if the message just said, hey, how you doing? Still, it takes you time to read the title, decide I want to read that message, click on the message, and then look at it and see it says, hey, how you doing? Okay, whatever, then go to the next one. Very slow pace, right? So as a developer, how could you anticipate that someone might go in there and literally select 10 emails and just try to open them all at once, right? Or go through the mailbox like a video game and just click for who knows what the reason they thought of doing that, right? And then introducing a bug, right? When you do either one of those things, maybe your email program crashes, right? But the bottom line is, as a programmer, a key skill set would have to be, or an important skill set would have to be, your ability to sort of think ahead and predict, eventualities. What possibly could happen. Like, what is the potential trajectory for this process that I'm creating, right? So with that being said, and put it in the context of doing a speech, what could go wrong? I'm doing a speech, I'm doing a demo of this product, and I played with it a ton of times. I know it works, but none of us were born yesterday. We know how life works. And you could have something work 1,000,000 times, and then the time that you really needed to work, it fails. Case in point, I was trying to demonstrate how cool Siri is. Hey, Siri. And then Siri decided to not respond to what I was saying earlier. It just wrote it on the screen. I've never seen that happen before, right? But in the middle of a live stream, it decides to do that. And that is not uncommon. That's just the way life works. So as a programmer, someone who should be very accustomed to these concepts, because they definitely apply to programming. Because again, like I illustrated, who knows the scenario? I mean, the users of your application are unknowns, right? You can predict standard behaviors, but there's going to be sort of I don't know if anomalous is even a word, but there'll be sort of some users that will stray from the common path, or and do something obscure that could introduce
stupid decides to do that, and that is not uncommon. That's just the way life works. So as a programmer, someone who should be very nice. Have a look.
I did that. I did call her, and I continued speaking while she was listening. So she did her best to try to pick up all the words I was saying, and she didn't know what the hell I was saying. So her backup plan is to do a search on the internet, and that's what she was telling me. But of course, she needs to repeat back what she looked up. So she's telling me, I looked up blah 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 blah, and this is what I found. Like, thanks, Siri. Anyway, yeah. So with that in mind, I would expect a developer who has legendary status as a Google developer to certainly be aware and to think through the process that this demo might fail, right? Now, let's consider this for a moment, because you could say, what's the word? I forgot the expression. Something is 2020, hindsight is 20. I forgot I'm sorry, I forgot how the expression goes, but someone could consider, hey, it's easy for me to sit here and judge and go and critique and say what should have been done, after the fact. But here's the reality. I do public speaking, but I've never been paid a dime to do public speaking. I do it as a volunteer effort. I've spoken to thousands of high school students, right? Never been paid a dime. So I am not a professional speaker, right? I don't do it as a profession. With that being said, I've been aware of this concept for quite some time. As a person who's not a high-end, elite, or even professional speaker, even I am aware of the concept of how to deal with these kinds of scenarios. So, number one, you have to anticipate any kind of demos can and will fail. Right? So knowing and being professional about it and really respecting your craft and taking what you're doing seriously, knowing that there's a potential of this thing to fail, knowing that it'll look bad for it to fail during your presentation, there are certain industry standard practices to deal with this, right? So number one, normally it is not recommended to do live demos like that. Now, they have their place, because obviously if I'm doing something pre-recorded, then it doesn't have the power of doing it live. When you do something live, you're risking it failing, so it really sends a powerful message in terms of your confidence in the product, and it really shows off how powerful the product is. But even if you're going to do that, you have to anticipate that it actually might fail, and you should have a plan in place to deal with that ahead of time. You don't just go on stage and just wishful thinking, hope that everything's just going to work out, right? That's not the way you do it, right? So again, me not as a professional speaker or anything like that, I'm aware of these concepts. So number one, you do the demo as a pre-recorded thing. So it always works, right? You simply press play and it plays out, the whatever the demo is. So you already know the demo is flawless, right? Because you have a chance to do it, make it flawless, and it's recorded, and then just play it back. So the only thing that can happen there is, of course, the playback not working. But even that won't stop someone who really takes this presentation more seriously, because you plan for that. You have a plan, a backup plan, and a backup plan, because you always consider that things won't work. So I go on stage, rather than doing it live, I do it as a playback. I hit play, it won't play back for some reason. I already have in place something to deal with that. So again, this is standard like programming logic. If the playback doesn't work, then pass to my colleague, have him do such and such presentation, and then I can troubleshoot at the same time. Now, the developer ended up coming up with that plan eventually. I don't think that was a planned backup plan. I'm assuming that he on the spot came up with, let me have him do that while I troubleshoot it. But all that stuff should have been planned ahead of time. Right? So it would have been done properly. It would be so smooth, you wouldn't necessarily even remember that it failed. And that is the point, right? Ultimately, you want to have a smooth presentation. You want to leave people feeling confident and they understand what you showed to them, right? So you do the playback and it fails. Within seconds, you initiate your backup plan where the other guy goes to his presentation and you can troubleshoot. And so people, it's seconds that they see something not working, and then they're onto something else, and then they don't even remember it anymore at that point. right? And then you cut back in once you fix the problem, and then you play it back, and it's so smooth, right? Instead of this guy being on a stage and he's all, I don't think it's working. I don't think it's working. And then, of course, I feel for him. I know that's embarrassing. He probably felt so nervous. And it sucks. But, if you're gonna, again, this whole legendary Google status, Google developer status, I would expect you to be delivering more than average. I mean, a typical developer doing this, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't even necessarily fault them. Developers are not presenters. They're not speakers, right? But when you're on that legendary status, then part of being legendary means that you're delivering much more than typical. For example, in case in point, Navy SEALs. Now, people wouldn't necessarily give a lot of credit to soldiers. They would think of them not necessarily being the smartest people. No offense to any soldiers out there, but the idea that people think of when they think of soldiers, they think, oh, you're just holding a gun and you're just like, ugh. And there's more to than that. I know there's tactics and things like that, but the fact of the matter is, though, when you look at the joining the Army. And you look at the armed forces, right? The test that you have to take to get into the armed forces. To qualify for the Army is not that difficult, right? I believe the Air Force, it's much harder to get into, right? You have to have higher scores. So even based on their testing mechanism, the Army themselves is saying that they don't require particularly a high level of intelligence to do the task that they require you to do. Now, that being said, you look at something like a Navy SEALs. Now, the Navy SEALs. So Navy SEAls, now there it is. They are elite, right? So this is the elite soldier, right? So as an elite soldier, we expect you to go above and beyond the typical soldier, right? And they actually do. They actually do warrant their elite status. Because case in point, to be a Navy SEALs or Navy SEAL, you can't just be, I'm really good with guns, or I'm really strong, or I'm a really good fighter, or I'm very disciplined. Like, you need to have all of that stuff. You need to be excellent at all of that, and also you need to have a very high IQ. One of the things about Navy SEALs is that they are supposed to use a lot of intelligence in how they perform their functions. Like, they are very, very smart people. I don't remember the exact requirements, but I do know that I wouldn't be surprised if a Navy SEAL has like a master's degree, even a PhD. These are definitely very, very smart people. And on top of that, physically fit, disciplined, all that, all the typical traits that you would expect from a good soldier, but they go above and beyond. Now you're doing things that you wouldn't expect to have from a typical soldier. So again, if you're going to give this elite status to Google developers, how are you going to go on stage doing a presentation and you didn't plan for the demo failing? Which is, again, that's not even an elite thing. That is something that me, as a person who's not professional, I do public speaking, but I'm not a professional speaker per se, right? And even I'm aware of these things that you have to deal with when you are dealing with public speaking. The fact that things may not work, right? And you have to have a backup plan so that you can have a smooth transition. And then some would say, they would even say, oh, okay, I understand the elite status thing, but they're still developers, not presenters. Okay, but they are not independents, right? These developers work for this massive corporation called Google, right? They're not independent. This is not Joe's programming, right? So even if the developer themselves do not have the skill set, or it's like this whole presentation, like, that's not what they do. I'm a programmer. Fine. But what about the people that they work for? What about the teams that they're part of? Someone planned this event, right? Now, as a company like Google, you mean to tell me that no one on the team responsible for planning this presentation, right, didn't think about this? They weren't there available during the presentation to assist these developers, right? Knowing that, hey, these guys are developers, this is not what they do, so we're going to back them up. So the minute that this thing fails, like, you have them with earpieces in, and you reach out to them and you say, hey, John, don't worry about it. Just pass it to Fred. right? First of all, you can plan this stuff. The people who are coordinating with the developers, you can be the ones. Like if we're doing a presentation, let's get someone who knows presentations, who's a professional at presentations, to coordinate with the developers, right? To fill in the gap. So we let them know the things that they're not aware of. And then if they fall short during the presentation, we sort of take over and assist them, rather than just have a developer being on a stage, sitting there being embarrassed that the thing isn't working. Right. So I really don't think there's any excuse for this kind of thing happening from a company like Google. And it's just yet another example of how they earned their legendary status. So eventually, I think he actually gets it working. Of course, everyone calls me while I'm live streaming. And I hate this. I hate WhatsApp. It's so annoying. So let's go and play it back.
Got a lot of a Google search page appearing on this immediately. It's where you're streaming that I meant. This is
There it is. I think he gets it.
which allows you to have some very robust.
It was actually kind of funny when they got it working.
So what I'd like to do is demonstrate this. Go straight. Stand still. Thank you. Sit. Go to sleep. So I'm going to start that over, and we'll see. Let me move forward. So let me show you, while we're waiting for that to reboot, exactly what we're sending with the RPC calls. We're sending initial requests. Now this is similar to the JSON that I showed in the last slide, but in here we're actually using protobuffers to send this. So it's a very compact format. In other words, you're not. Go forward. Spin left. Spin right. Go backwards. Do a dance. Go to sleep. Play dead. I like that one too. So there we are.
Play dead.
So one thing I wanted to point out is it's responding very quickly, and that's because it's streaming the speech as I'm speaking. So it's not going to capture all the speech and then wait and then send a big chunk of data up. And as I'm speaking, it's going bidirectional, and so that's why I can do it so quickly. And my clicker is here. So what I'd like to do is, this is easier to show than to talk about, so let me show this. These are experimental features, I want to say. What I've showed you to date is what's available right now on the Cloud Speech API. These are experimental features that will be available soon. What time is it in Tokyo?
The time in Tokyo, Japan is 9:29 a.m.
How do you say, when is the next train in French?
Quand part le prochain train?
Turn on the table lamp.
Not sure how to help with turn on the table lamp.
There we go.
That was kind of weird. It almost sounded like it complained, like it didn't understand what he said, but then the lamp came on anyway. It's kind of hard to hear. Let me actually turn off the music and let's have it play back again. But it sounded weird.
Not sure how to help with turn on the table lamp.
There we go.
Turn on the table lamp. Not sure how to help with
Turn on the table lamp.
not sure how to help with turn on the table lamp.
There we go. Go to sleep.
Didn't it say not sure something? Am I hearing things? I guess we're saying, I'm not sure what you mean by that. And then the lamp come. I don't know, man. That's a little shady there.
So as you can see, I've demonstrated two different things in that demo. The first one is spoken answers. And what that's doing is as I'm asking questions, it's providing answers. And the second one is something that we've actually integrated with if this, then that, which is a way that you can integrate with all sorts of different devices. In this case, I've integrated with a light module controller so that you can actually set up your own triggers to do this. And this is exactly what I did. There's a web page that I went to, and I typed in what I wanted to say as triggers, voice triggers, various ways I wanted to say it, and what it's going to respond when I do say that. And what it does is it goes out and configures this, and now when I speak that phrase, or one of those phrases, it goes out and triggers whatever if action you would like to trigger. So you want to?
Yeah, it looks like it's working. Oh, looks like it's working.
This demo was weird.
Yeah, it looks like it's working.
It's reduced.
Yeah.
It's locked.
Okay.
It's currency. I'm
Currency.
smiling.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you.
It's black hair. It's better.
Yes, it is.
It's goggles. Hello.
Not goggles.
It's bag. It's eyewear.
Yeah, it's eyewear. How about this? How about this? Yeah, if you keep smiling, then it tries to follows me. What is this? Can you see this? Oh. Not ah! Thank you. So yeah, it works finally. So that,
Transport.
yeah, thank you. So that was our demonstration.
All right. Wonderful. Anyway, if you enjoyed this episode, click on the like button, subscribe, smash the bell for notifications. I will be continuing the series demonstrating how wonderful the Google developers are, producing wonderful products like YouTube, home of shadow banning, and other wonderful things like that. And also Google Search, who has been, known for, let's say, not exactly giving you the results that you're necessarily looking for. Well, I guess what I'm looking what I'm trying to say is, let's just say that the results that you get may have a certain bias to them that most people are not even aware of. They just go with the flow. They click on search and, they see the results come up and they click through the results, never knowing what's going on behind the scenes in terms of why they're seeing what they're seeing, and realizing that it's not all about giving you the best result based on what you're looking for. And part of it may be what Google wants you to see, right? Anyway, thanks for watching. Until the next episode, Vigets, salut, arrivederci. This is the Computer Programming University, where learning is always fun, as it should be.